In the most recent development in the campaign to free Britney, her father apparently will be stepping down as conservator, although there is some debate as to what the timeline will be and exactly why that might be happening. So to catch you up, Britney Spears recently came forward publicly with serious accusations against her father, saying she was overworked without any breaks, drugged with lithium, and prohibited from having more children after her conservators did not allow her to remove her birth control device. The pop star added she wanted to charge Jamie Spears, her father, with conservatorship abuse. So there are, the possibilities of additional legal efforts ongoing. Those might be influencing some of what's going on behind the scenes. But we want to give you a little bit of the court filing that Britney Spears' father recently submitted, saying there are in fact no actual grounds for suspending or removing Mr. Spears as the conservator of the estate. And it is highly debatable whether a change in conservator at this time would be in Ms. Spears' best interests. Nevertheless, even as Mr. Spears is the unremitting target of unjustified attacks, he is, after all, the main victim in all this, he does not believe that a public battle with his daughter over his continuing service as her conservator would be in her best interests. So even though he must contest this unjustified petition for his removal, Mr. Spears intends to work with the court and his daughter's new attorney to prepare for an orderly transition to a new conservator, going on to say that he's continuing to serve dutifully, and there's false accusations and a whole bunch of other stuff. All of it's available for you to read online if you want. So Adriana, I want to go to you. So how significant is this change? And is this simply like acceding to her wishes, or do you think that there might be some other reason for the change?
I think the change is coming as a result of potential backlash, in addition to the possibility that Jamie Spears could essentially face more exposure in terms of people, looking behind, jumping into records, diving in. That is what Britney Spears' attorney Matthew Rosengart is aiming to do, to depose Jamie Spears, to see, hey, how was this money spent? How have you been acting as the conservator over this conservatorship? Because one thing we do know is that Jamie Spears was making about $5 million from Britney Spears' conservatorship. He is in a position where he was filling his pockets and claiming that it was in his daughter's best interest. So Britney's attorney, Matthew Rosengart, will, as he has said, he will be looking deeper. He's going to be jumping into accounts, doing audits, and seeing how was this money spent, and was it spent in a way that it did further that conservatorship? Because if not, there are some people who are going to have to owe money and pay back what they took from Britney.
I mean, first of all, I think there's a rule when you have conversations about things like that somebody on every panel has to say, I wouldn't want to be around their table at Thanksgiving, and then everybody can chuckle. So I'll do that, but I didn't mean it. I think this is, I'm obviously going to defer to the lawyer here, and what Adrian says is far more learned than what I know, but it does seem as if the lawyers got in touch with Jamie Spears and said, hey man, we got to go in another direction here. And I think though that there, I don't know very much about conservatorship and the abuses, but if it's happening to Britney Spears, it means it's happening to a lot of people that you've never heard of. So there's, that's what's cool about the law, is that cases like this become landmark, and people can say, oh, it's Britney Spears, it's a soft story. This is anything but a soft story, and not every conservatorship has to do with as much money or as much control, but this will impact other people, and I think there's an importance to that.
Yeah. There's more of this. I want to get to the response from the attorney for Britney Spears, but first I had a question for you, Adrian. So we will eventually get to the fact that they still plan investigations. As you point out, he's already made millions of dollars, which I cannot believe how that is possible. But do we expect that if there are some sorts of like civil lawsuits against him, I'm assuming they could go after that money, right?
Oh, absolutely. They can go after whatever he's holding to disgorge whatever he had taken from the conservatorship that was not lawful, wasn't reasonable. It was not really anything more than an abuse of his power, because he's had this conservatorship over Britney for at least, I believe, 13 years, since 2008, claiming that she basically couldn't take care of herself, because that's generally what conservatorships are for. But this woman is an adult. I believe she has 2 children who are probably in their older teens now, and she is entitled to spend the money that she earned and worked so hard for, however she wants to spend it. And this thought that her father had said, you all have not seen the drug use, you haven't seen what goes on behind closed doors. Who even knows what her father's thoughts truly are in the sentiment? But I can tell you, the fact that this woman here is being controlled to the extent she is under this conservatorship should really raise a lot of red flags for a considerable number of people.
Yeah, and look, there's a lot that I don't know. I am not just not a lawyer, but I'm basically the opposite of one. But like the fear seems to be that she'll waste her money. Okay, they don't see the drug use that goes behind doors. Okay, Jamie Spears, how much do you drink? Like on an average week, how much have you ever done weed? Like what? We're expecting that he's some sort of like teetotaler or something? Like how? I understand that there are legal implications if they're saying that she's literally breaking the law, I suppose, even though I don't think that those laws should be there. But if she's not literally breaking the law, I don't understand how considerations about her potentially wasting her money even enter into it. How does that even become a part of this conversation?
Exactly, she is an adult. So whether she chooses to spend all of her money on pot and hang out on the couch all day, that is something she is entitled to do. And so allowing her to be an adult and to use, spend, and do whatever she wants with the money she's earned, that is what she's entitled to. And by virtue of the fact that her father was able to step in those years ago and make this conservatorship permanent is wild. And it is wild that it is still going on. And as Michael has noted, it really should signal to us that there are a lot of people out there who may be subject to conservatorships that are completely unlawful. And yet you have a conservator who is taking money just like Jamie Spears is and continuing to enjoy just profiting off controlling someone else.
Yeah. Well, I want to jump to where they're attempting to make sure that we know that there will still be these investigations. Matthew Rosengarth, the attorney for Britney Spears, says, "We look forward to continuing our vigorous investigation into the conduct of Mr. Spears and others over the past 13 years while he reaped millions of dollars from his daughter's estate. And I look forward to taking Mr. Spears' sworn deposition in the near future." So there had been a previous reference to, I'll step down totally, but I want it to be orderly and I want the court to, in their words, include a resolution of matters pending before the court. So is it possible that as a part of stepping down as the conservator, he could be protected from any of the like future challenges or investigations? Is that something that a judge would allow, considering what Britney Spears and her lawyer have said?
No, I don't believe that that would be a possibility. Anything is kind of possible with a court order. It doesn't mean it can't be overturned. But in this circumstance here, where there are potential allegations that Jamie Spears was using the conservatorship improperly or taking funds that were excessive and were not serving the conservatorship, that is something that the court should want looked into. Because we have to remember, conservatorships are used to protect people who cannot necessarily take care of themselves. These are people who maybe they're suffering from mental health or some kind of mental illness or something in some way has made it so that they cannot truly care for themselves. And so they need the court to oversee it to a certain extent. So in the event that Jamie Spears was abusing his power as being the conservator of this conservatorship, I think that that is something that the court would just very much be interested in diving into and seeing that be exposed and also seeing him being held to account.
Yeah. Michael, any thoughts about where this might go?
I wouldn't want to be around their table at Thanksgiving.
Awkward. Finally, let me just throw out there and see if either of you have thoughts about this. So of course, I understand that this should be clear, but I think the news that he is stepping down, or at least plans to step down, people have been pretty worked up about this, especially for the past few months where it's re-entered the popular consciousness. But of course, it's not the same as she will now be free. He will step down and some other conservator will be appointed. I guess the implication is that it's someone that her and her lawyer would be more favorable towards. So I guess that's an improvement of her condition, but how significant of an improvement is that?
Oh, I think it could really change things significantly, because if this individual is more objective and neutral and realizes that they have a job and their job isn't to pilfer off their daughter's estate and everything their daughter's worked for, then I think it would be more likely that there's a possibility that Britney could essentially go free, shall we say? Because who we need in that role is someone who is truly objective and neutral and who is willing to step aside and to also tell the court, hey, there is no need for this conservatorship to continue to stay into place. We think that she should be able to manage her own money. Things are fine, we'll move on. As opposed to the position Jamie Spears has taken, which is the thought that my daughter's unstable, unhealthy, you don't see what goes on behind the scenes. She needs me to protect her, patriarchal nonsense. And so getting someone in that role who would actually do the job and do it objectively is really what Britney needs in this situation.